Welcome to Longevity Deal Talk. In this edition, funding available now for innovators in tech for older Americans. This is information you'll want to act on right away. There's a deadline approaching soon. Today's episode is made possible by the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP, working with startups to empower people to choose how they live as they age. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. It's great to be back with another episode of Longevity Deal Talk. I can't believe how much traction we got already. And this is a very important one for our audience.
It is. What we're talking about are the A2 Pilot Awards in association with the National Institute on Aging. There is $40 million in funding available over the next 5 years for artificial intelligence and transformative technology innovators to improve care and health outcomes for older Americans. And we have some terrific people joining us. First is the A2 Collective's Managing Director, Head of Marketing and Business Development, Stephen Liu.
Thank you for the welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you, Stephen. Great to have you moving from the venture world into this new innovation partnership world. Tell us a little bit about your background and then tell us what the A2 Collective is.
So I'm a social entrepreneur. I come from the venture and tech startup world. And last year, I decided to partner up with a former NIA branch chief named Dr. Rose Lee. We made a bid on this particular project, which basically became the A2 Collective. And the A2 Collective, just for your information, is the AI/tech and aging collective, and it basically represents the NIA's Artificial Intelligence and Technology Collaboratories for Aging Research, or AITC program. Folks in government love acronyms. So it was, and this is basically a $65 million program over the next 5 years dedicated to helping Americans live longer, better through the application of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. So, and our mission is really to empower innovation in AI and aging on a national infrastructure level. We're looking to partner with folks, luminaries like yourselves, in the space doing the hard work, the AARP Innovation Labs. We're looking to partner with folks in tech, venture, aging, and dementia. And I'm kind of honored to be included along with folks just such as yourself that has been doing this work for many, many years. And we hope to add our little part in helping this along.
So I had said 40 million, but you said 65 million, and I assume inflation's not moving that fast. We had
Yeah, the 65 million is the overall program. So in addition to the 40 million is earmarked for pilot demonstration projects over the next 5 years. The other portion is really related to infrastructure building in terms of education, networking, research, all those types of things that actually the people in this podcast have been doing for quite a number of years already. And so think of it as a kind of air support from the NIA on how we can really augment this activity. And I think a lot of people, entrepreneurs especially, don't pay enough attention to the aging and dementia space in terms of the market size and a variety of different things. And so I think there's a lot that we can make an impact on our nation's older Americans to improve their care and health outcomes. Also, maybe to help out our beleaguered healthcare systems as well, too.
So this is a project competition with a deadline coming up really soon for this year of February 18th. Describe for us what the awards are.
So the A2 Collective is the producer of the A2 Pilot Awards, right, which is a national pilot project competition. And we're, as I mentioned, 40 million is earmarked over the next 5 years to fund promising demonstration technology projects with a clear path to commercialization, translational milestones, and/or technology transfer that are at the intersection of AI and aging and ADRD, Alzheimer's dementia, and the related dementia. We'll fund up to $200,000 in direct costs, though the average is likely going to be lower. So that theoretically, if you do the math, that could be 250 pilot projects over the next 5 years. And so think of this as the NIA's Moonshot Accelerated Innovation Initiative, where we hope to leverage AI and new technologies to help out not only older Americans on their care and health, but also caregivers as well too, because as you guys know, the caregiving economy is something like $500 billion, I think, or something like that. It's a huge number. And in this endeavor, we hope to also partner not only with traditional academic scientists, they call them PIs. That's not Magnum PI. These are principal investigators, basically. And also, but we want to partner with tech startup founders because I'm sure you guys know there's a vast shortage of AI engineers globally right now. I think there's something like 10,000 engineers. I read a study that can actually do real work in terms of machine and deep learning. And I think part of all of our objectives is to say this is a big market. This is very important to our nation's healthcare systems and also a core demographic that's there. And let's inspire these scientists, these technical scientists that are in computational AI to work on the aging and dementia issue. Because it's a big market and it's going to be very important. So, so that's the overall program. The core of the A2 Collective are basically 3 world-class multidiscipline research laboratories. They're going to evaluate the pilot projects. They're going to collaborate with these projects. They are located at, and presently they're all on the East Coast. We hope that there'll be some on the West Coast eventually. But presently they are located at Johns Hopkins University, the University of Pennsylvania, and the last one is the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And within Amherst, it's actually spread out among 5 sites. It's Amherst, Brigham and Women's Hospital, Massachusetts General Hospital, Brandeis University, and Northeastern Universities. And all of these research collaboratories have a wealth of resources, not only obviously the universities that back them, but they have leading experts from the field of medicine, gerontology, nursing, computer science, electrical engineering, informatics, business, health policy, ethics. And they also have access to a variety of population study sites where pilot projects can actually validate their studies through these small little experiments. And of course, they also have expertise in IRB and human subject recruitment as well as access to, a lot of them have access to proprietary AI software that they've developed, as well as data sets. So, that's kind of the gist of the overall program, is that these research collaboratories are going to be the partners of there. And so for the health tech and age tech, more so I want to say the AI technology startups out there that are in the health tech or med tech arena, this is a great opportunity for you to validate an aging application with the leading experts in the field. And once you get funding from the A2 Collective, this will also make you more competitive for bigger dollars on SBIR as well too, which obviously I'm sure it seems like a lot of people are familiar with as well too. So that's basically the program in a nutshell. We are funding a variety of different projects, and it is kind of I think the NIA's Partha and Marcel's, who are the program officer, they kind of want to do this Cambrian explosion of innovation. And so, you think about the areas that it's covered. It's in the aging domain. It's in the cognition domain, which is dementia. It's in social behavioral domains, like social isolation. Some of the technologies, obviously, you're familiar with them: machine and deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, robotics, sensors, wearables. But it doesn't necessarily have to be these fancy. It could be just a technology that's used that's generating an interesting solution. So, anyways, we're hoping to partner with folks like Mary Furlong and AARP to essentially drive innovation and do what we can to also help out the cohorts that you guys are also going through. And we also want to be a resource for them as well too. So after they go through the AARP Innovation Labs, we'd love for them to validate and do an extra study with the A2 Collective or Mary, one of your startups. So anyway, so that's kind of the executive summary.
We moved on this pretty fast. So Sean Louis in Chicago told us about you, and we hopped on it right away because we knew it was of interest to our clients and a lot of the people who attend our conferences and to our partners. The process of applying is much less cumbersome than the process of applying for a full NIA grant, correct?
Yes. So one of the things Rose, as well as Rob Verheim, who's our head of operations, and myself, one of the things that we not necessarily insisted on, but we suggested is a very, you'll notice when you go to the A2pilotawards.ai is where the application is. You'll notice that it's a very short application, and you'll notice that this looks unlike any other NIH or NIH grant funding program that has existed out there, because it's a very short application. There's no mention yet of NIH biosketches or these types of things. And the idea is that this initial application, I guess it's opportunity for it to get read by the collaboratory. And so when you go and fill out the application, we ask that you go visit the websites of each of the collaboratories at Johns Hopkins, Penn, and Massachusetts, because really, they're the ones that are going to be evaluating and actually funding these particular. They're going to be the ones that are kind of mentoring these pilot projects that are out there, and they're going to be the ones. And so the process is fairly simple. You fill it out. The deadline is on February 18th at 5 p.m. As of right now, there's 11 days, 4 hours, 47 minutes, and 22 seconds left to apply. But it will only take you a day or two to fill out the application. And the good thing is that you'll get it read by leading experts in the field. If they're interested in your project, you'll probably have the opportunity from there to modify your pilot project scope and budget en route to filling out a full NIH or NIA package by April for funding by May 31st. And I should also mention that the $200,000, a lot of them have stated on the materials that their average is probably going to be 100 to 150. It depends on what you're doing. If you're just generating a data set, that could be $50,000, right? And also, the funds are expected to be expended within 12 months, but certain projects could be considered for multi-year funding or extensions. And so I think the point is to get your application in and establish a relationship with these research collaboratories, because if you don't get it in this year, maybe they like it. They'll suggest that you reapply for next year. You can reapply for next year. And if you have different types of research, You can actually submit multiple applications. So if you're doing something that's more like AI focused, or you're doing a study with a population, you might want to reformat the application there. We just ask that, of course, these are scientists that are reviewing your application. So, each application is going to be judged for scientific merit and scientific rigor, but you don't need a PhD to apply. It's just that you probably need to pass those standards of the NIH on the actual pilot study. And of course, to the extent that a pilot project can share data sets and whatnot with the AIC, the collaboratories are probably going to pick projects that are strategic. They don't want to just be a check writer, right? They actually want to add value and collaborate with you. And so that's something that some advice I can also, to the extent that you can have a dementia Alzheimer's application. I think there may be less competition. Generally, dementia is harder to do, and so if you can swing it towards that way, then there may be a little that might increase your chances there. But generally, that's to answer your question, Mary. It's a short application, funding by May, and we'll do a rolling review of the applications, and so you'll probably get some feedback by March, April timeframe.
Thank you, Stephen. Really, really exciting. We want to bring in a couple of more guests. Sasha Spellman is Startup Collaboration Director at the AARP Age Tech Collaborative, and also from the collaborative, Rick Robinson, VP of Startup Engagement. Hi, Sasha and Rick.
Hey there. How are you?
And thanks so much for being here. Any thoughts about what you just heard?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in. This is really exciting, and particularly the idea of being able to reduce the, I guess, sort of overhead or bureaucracy in between startup companies and some of this funding. We've got over 50 companies in our portfolio here in the Innovation Lab as part of our Age Tech Collaborative program. And I can guarantee you, I know a number of them deploy AI and other technologies that I think would overlap what you were talking about, Stephen. I can guarantee a number of them would love to have the opportunity to be part of this. So we definitely need to talk.
Yeah, and luckily I was able to chat with Stephen a couple weeks ago, and he kind of shared what this new opportunity is for startups in some of these areas of age tech, and we were able to quickly promote that through our platform for the Age Tech Collaborative to all of our portfolio of startups, like Rick was mentioning. So a lot of our companies are in that early stage phase where they need opportunities for testing and validation and are looking for pilots. So it's a really exciting opportunity to potentially have them apply for working with one of those.
Also, we're happy to be part of the Age8, as we talk, the Age Tech Collaborative as well too. So you guys are definitely leaders in this space. So I definitely been tracking your work ever since I came into this space. Stalking you guys.
That's great.
Tell us a little bit about the Age Tech Collaborative, Sasha. I'm privileged to be a member too. But we're hoping to grow it, and there could be people that see this podcast and would like to be a part. So how does one join the collaborative?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mary. So we're very excited to have groups like Mary Furlong in the space. We've talked to Stephen about his organization joining the collaborative, and what it is, it's essentially a platform that's designed to support the age tech ecosystem. And we're bringing in different group types, or we're calling them participant types, to help support all of our portfolio startups that are graduating into the platform. So we have the 50 companies that we talked about that have gone through a pitch in the accelerator program at AARP Innovation Labs. And then we're also bringing in investors, larger corporations, test beds that are looking to offer pilots for startups, as well as a group called Business Services that has a discounted product or service for an early stage company specifically. So we just launched this platform in November of last year. So now we're just in the process of starting to host workshops and events for the community, start to shine a spotlight on some of the leaders, some of the startup founders, investors that are leaders in the space. And then just, making those impactful connections across the ecosystem.
Tell us a little bit more, Stephen, if hone it down, I guess, to just the nuts and bolts here. What do people need to know right now to move on this?
Well, I guess if I'm looking at from a tech entrepreneur standpoint, let's say they've gone through the AARP Innovation Labs, it is a pilot project. It's a demonstration project. So you probably, you don't need to fill out a full, they call it budget justification for the NIH, but you do have to kind of think about the scope and the budget of this pilot project. And of course, what's new, what's the big problem that you're trying to solve? Obviously, if they've gone through the innovation labs, they probably already have a pretty good idea on pathways for commercialization and approvals and reimbursements and all those types of things. So that's good. But yeah, I guess that probably, and then you still might consider bringing in an academic or PhD, onto your application. But for now, I think it's really just, get your application in there, do the best that you can, because it's not the final package. And we do think that the actual funding application is going to be iterative and collaborative. I don't think that the Techstart will nail that application, that pilot project from the get-go, because it has to be a mutual fit between the startup and the collaboratory. And so I think that's probably going to have to require some conversation. So just get in there and then establish a dialogue. In fact, we encourage you to actually email them directly before you submit it, and they're answering it. They're providing feedback, like professors do. They're great at giving feedback. So just establish a relationship. But we'd love to talk to you. I'd love to if there's anybody as a client of Mary or of the AARP Innovation Labs. You can email me directly and I'll answer any questions. I consider me your A2 Collective concierge. Of any of your clients, Mary, just have them reach out to me and I'll do my best to shepherd them through the process.
And Stephen,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, Stephen. The program, once a entrepreneur or startup is accepted, is it gated by time, or what is the expectation on the part of the entrepreneur or startup?
So the costs are expected to be spent over 12 months.
12 months.
So the startup should have probably a prototype or MVP that's ready to go. Let's say you get approved by May 31st. It probably is a good idea. It has to be extended by a year. So the prototype should be ready to go within that period and with this experiment, basically. And so, and these are not big. The collaboratories are not CROs, right? It's not like we're doing a massive study, but it probably has to be statistically significant to actually do a study. So there's a kind of a fine balance there, but generally the scope should be within a year, generally. Yeah.
Right.
And also the other thing is that I want to mention, because there's also international as well too. You guys have a global audience. To be eligible, you just need to have a U.S. domiciled corporation with a DUNS number.
Okay. And do the companies or entrepreneurs need to come on premise at Johns Hopkins or otherwise, or are they remote?
I think they could be remote. I mean, I think, I don't think that's any. They're not expecting you to move. But to the extent that the startup can utilize the resources in the facilities, a lot of them have facilities. They have all these a menagerie of labs. There's a lab for everything, on sleeping, on wearables, on dementia, on a variety of different things. So to the extent that you could utilize some of these resources, the other thing I want to mention about the funding is that the 200 up to 200 is not including indirect costs. And so if you happen to be a institution with a federally negotiated rate, then you can also get reimbursement for indirect costs. I believe for a startup, the minimum for if you don't have a federally negotiated rate is 10%. So that's 10% on top of direct costs. On top of that, all A2 collective awardees will receive, if you qualify, $10,000 in AWS credits as well too.
Nice.
So this is non-dilutive capital, just to say. One of the reasons I'm excited about this is because a lot of the grants that came out of universities went to private what are they called? PIs?
Principal investigators. I had to learn that term.
Principal investigators.
It's not.
And that's where a lot of the research money went. Now there's so many entrepreneurs that are deep in the trenches building companies that are relevant to that research. And this is a great way to bring them together faster, I think. And they see the benefit of having the research and that bench strength depth in research, but they're also entrepreneurs, so they move very fast. So that's what I find exciting. Sasha and Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, anything that's going to kind of break down the barrier between entrepreneurs who need capital to move forward and getting access to that capital, particularly if it's non-dilutive, as you pointed out, but also seems to come with additional support, not just funding, is terrific. So very attractive program in my mind. So like I said, we talked before, and I want to continue that conversation to, selfishly try to get some of our companies engaged. Maybe not for this initial. I think the deadline you said is the 18th, but thereafter as well. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, and also on top of that, obviously, if we're in the health tech space, everything's regulated, and so this actually going through an A2 collective pilot project study actually increases the value of the startup. Wow. Because it goes one step closer to regulatory approval pathways. Not to say that because a lot of it is grounded on academic research. So yeah, we would like to think we're helping, and once they go through, and there'll be some we're still going to have quite a few traditional NIA investigators, and we also want to go back the other way as well to the AARP innovation labs, because there could be also academic investigators with really interesting technologies that come out of our program, and we want to refer them to the AARP innovation labs as well too.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. And also how wonderful to have your leadership, Stephen, and take on this cause and looking at some of these issues. It's an orchestra of talent that's coming into the H-Tech area.
Yeah, it's a long-term bet for me in terms of I didn't come from the aging space before, notwithstanding that I'm aging myself, but I do take care of my senior parents. I'm their Best Buy guy. I configure all their iPads and phones and all that type of stuff. But I do believe that I know we don't like to use the term silver tsunami, but I think that tsunami is real, and I see a lot of opportunity, and everybody's been so welcoming in this space. For folks like Mary, you guys were immediately receptive. Rick and Sasha, Fred, it's nice to meet you. I was referred to Mary through Sean Liu, who came through another program, and he said, Mary is my mentor. Let me introduce you. And this is how that happened, basically.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The excuse me, some refer to it as a silver tsunami or a number of different terms, but this idea that venture capitalists, as well as young entrepreneurs and older entrepreneurs who want to create companies, are now looking at what we refer to as age tech in numbers that we've not seen before. So thanks to, as you point out, people like Mary and Fred who've been doing this a long time, we hope AARP as well, we're getting people and talent thinking about solutions in age tech where they wouldn't have in the past. And that's going to have dramatic impacts down the line for consumers. So we're really excited about that.
I was just going to give your website up there, Stephen. It's the collective.ai, and people can get more information there. Is your email address on there as well?
My email is steve@a2collective.ai. The actual application is a subsite of that called a2pilotawards.ai. And so that's the application link with FAQs and all those types of things. Just reach out to me if you have any questions about it.
Thank you so much for spending time with us, Stephen.
Welcome. Thank you.
And Rick and Sasha, tell us how to find more information about the Age Tech Collaborative.
Oh yeah, so you can go to agetechcollaborative.org, and there's a page called Apply Today. And if you fill that out, you can self-identify between those participant group types that I was mentioning. So if you're an investor, or even if you're a startup, we talk about how to work with us in the accelerator program. So fill that out, and our team will be in touch with you directly to talk more about the collaborative.
Thank you again to our guests and our sponsor, the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP, working with startups to empower people to choose how they live as they age. Mary, any final thoughts here?
No, it's exciting. And we're moving at entrepreneur speed, investor speed, all of it's coming together. So off to a good start.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for spending time with us. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more What's Next Longevity Deal Talk.